Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fall. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up
Attorney
your
General
mind.
lacks all credibility and has, I think, compromised the American public's ability to believe that he is a purveyor of justice.
Should he resign?
Yes.
Being Attorney General of the United States is a sacred trust. You have betrayed that trust. America deserves better. You should resign.
I thought he was unfit to serve when he was appointed. I opposed his nomination. I think he probably should resign.
He has burned through any credibility he had in that role, and he should resign.
He's supposed to be America's attorney, not Donald Trump's personal lawyer, and I really hope that he gets that. Otherwise, he should resign.
If a lawyer engaged in this kind of dishonesty, they would be disbarred. Bill Barr needs to resign.
I think that Barr should resign. And if he does not resign, he should be facing impeachment proceedings also.
Now, I think in the interest of the department should step down, but I have no expectation that he will.
This Attorney General has lost any remaining trust he may have had with the American people, and the American people need to be able to trust the Attorney General to be the people's lawyer and not the president's spokesperson. So he does need to resign.
Yeah, and he's not going to. That's just a fact. He's not going to resign. So the question is, what do Democrats in the House do about it? Because that's all we have left. Oh, wait a minute. That's all we have left now is the House of Representatives. You realize that, right? I mean, the Senate obviously is gone. The presidency is destroyed. The Department of Justice, as of yesterday, is clearly in ruins. And all that, and the Supreme Court is full of a bunch of, sycophants, right? So all that's left is the House of Representatives, and that's a heavy lift because anything that they do on impeachment ends up in the Senate, and the Senate will never cooperate. Now, yesterday we all saw Bill Barr, didn't we? Did everybody see? I mean, I pulled some clips yesterday. We had an abbreviated, truncated show because of technical crap. So we only got an hour to, show you what went on in the Senate Judiciary Committee hearings. But suffice it to say, Bill Barr, the phrase that came from it was splitting hairs. And he split so many hairs, looked like the floor of, my hair salon over there. You needed Gina to come and sweep. It was so unbelievable, and he contorted himself into so many different positions of the Kama Sutra that, if verbal gymnastics were an Olympic event, Bill Barr would get a gold medal, but I also think he's too old. I think he may have injured himself. Yeah, because today he was a no-show. We were supposed to be having another hearing today, this one in the House Judiciary Committee. And, this is how it opened up today.
Attorney General Barr has informed us that he will not appear today. Although we worked to accommodate his concerns, he objects to the prospect of answering questions by staff counsel and to the possibility that we may go into executive session to discuss certain sensitive topics. Given the Attorney General's lack of candor before other congressional committees, I believe my colleagues and I were right to insist on the extended questioning. To my knowledge, not even the ranking member was opposed to the idea of moving into closed session if necessary. But even if Democrats and Republicans disagree on the format of this hearing, we must come together to protect the integrity of this chamber. The administration may not dictate the terms of a hearing in this hearing room. The challenge we face is bigger than a single witness. Late last night, the Department of Justice wrote to inform us that they will ignore our subpoena for the unredacted Mueller report and the underlying evidence. They have made no meaningful attempt at accommodating that subpoena, which was due yesterday.
They have the White House is a lawless White House. They have absolutely no intentions of following the law or observing, subpoenaed, subpoenas. They're defying every subpoena. The president has said he's going to fight every subpoena. He's not going to honor any subpoena. And so you have a House of Representatives that's unable to get witnesses to come. If you subpoena those witnesses, they will just defy the subpoena. We know that that's been the case with everything from his tax returns to now the unredacted Mueller report, which was due to be delivered. And it's not, the subpoena date was today, and they're not delivering it. Emmett Flood, the White House special counsel, has written a letter for the file saying that the president is, somehow going to retroactively take back executive privilege, even though he allowed for all these documents to be delivered to Mueller, even though he said that, he wasn't going to invoke executive privilege on Don McGahn or Steve Bannon or anybody else that Mueller wanted to interview. Now he says Emmett Flood is claiming that the president didn't really give up executive privilege. The president allowed Mueller to get documents and allowed Mueller to hear testimony, but not Congress? What constitution do these guys think we have that you could do something like that when oversight is clearly the Congress's responsibility? And the Mueller report kicked it over to Congress. I mean, he said it 80,465 different ways in the Mueller report that I can't indict a sitting president. So therefore, and he starts the whole obstruction volume, page 1, with saying, I can't indict a sitting president. So I'm just going to lay out the evidence that we gathered. And then you, Congress, need to examine the evidence and decide whether to indict him, because I can't. That is what is in the Mueller report. I can't, so you must. And now all of a sudden the White House is going, oh, no, we don't live under that Constitution. We waived executive privilege for Mueller, but not for Congress. Well, it makes no sense to me. And that is where we are. And you've got the Republicans screaming on the top of their lungs that this is all Jerry Nadler's fault, okay? Because Gerald Nadler wanted... You know how yesterday we saw the 5-minute questioning from a Republican, then a 5-minute questioning from a Democrat, then a 5-minute from... And so it was like living in an alternative universe. I mean, you could barely follow the testimony because Democrats were actually probing Barr about the Mueller report, and Republicans were probing Barr about some fantasy that they have that Hillary will somehow be indicted. Right? And so you kind of lose the train of thought that you're on to follow what the... All right, so they decided in the House that they would have, the 5 minutes, and then they would have an hour at the end where staff counsel, now, in this case, it's two unbelievably brilliant constitutional lawyers, Berkman and Norm Eisen, right? You've seen him before. They were going to have them question Barr. So, and they were going to do it for an hour straight. So Barr couldn't deflect. He couldn't just, run out the clock. He couldn't obfuscate. He couldn't say, like Kamala Harris, she asked Bill Barr yesterday, about, did anybody ever suggest to you that you investigate anybody? Meaning, is Trump telling you to investigate his political enemies? And Barr had to sit there and parse the words for a good 4 or 5 minutes to run out the clock and everything. It's almost like if you asked Bill Barr, did you eat lunch today? He would first say he doesn't recall. And then he would say, because I'm mulling the words eat and lunch, because there were eggs involved in my lunch. And so that could really be rightfully called a breakfast. Or maybe because there was also lettuce, you should call it a brunch. Okay? But did you eat at noonish? Well, I had a lollipop, and so you don't really eat that. You suck on it. So I have to, go through your words and see how it applies to me about what I did at noonish. Do you know what I mean? That's what he did all day yesterday, except when he lied, except when he actually committed perjury. So what do you want to do? Go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.